You are listening to The Elephant and the Flea, a bedtime story written by George Louis Avery and voiced by Cornelius, courtesy of 11 Labs. Let us begin. Once upon a time there was a common flea, Pulex irritans. This flea was no more and no less ordinary than any other flea, for that matter, but you could not convince him of it. For you see, this flea had travelled to Rome to witness the coronation of the king, after having accepted a formal invitation by stowing away in the beard of a celebrated thespian, which was top-of-the-line fare for a flea. But seeing that he could not hear above the congestive undertones of the audience, and the telescopic view being unacceptable, he made his way through the procession by hopping from head to head until he had gained the foremost seat in the cathedral. But of course he was so small and unimposing that the Pope did not see him poised atop the future king's balding pate as he was placing on the crown until after the misdeed was done. And by this time it was too late to rectify the matter, and the flea received the coronation first. "By Jehovah, the title is mine," proclaimed the flea. "Kneel down before me, my ambrosiad subject," he commanded of the deposed heir apparent, and he bit the would-be king forthwith, and with much gusto, right on the top of his bald scalp. "Ouch!" cried out the unappreciative recipient of the flea's bite, and he slapped his hand to his wounded head in a most violent manner. This would have been a fitting end to this parable, and the last we would have heard of the flea, had not the Pope stayed the hand with his own. "Hold thy temper, my liege. You cannot do harm to your new king." "What sacrilege is this you speak?" shouted the angered potentate. "It is I who am crowned king." "Not so. The flea has been made monarch in your stead, by the grace of God." "This is unacceptable," protested the would-be king. "Such an outrage cannot be permitted. The flea is not of royal lineage." "Oh, but you are mistaken, for it carries the same blood as yours. It did bite you, did it not?" "Mercy, it did at that," confessed the would-be king. "Then you had better do as your newly appointed king commands of you, and kneel before him." And so the would-be king knelt down, albeit reluctantly, and bowed before his majesty, the flea. Forthwith, all in attendance followed suit by prostrating themselves to their new monarch. The flea, in the meantime, was swelling with a new-born emotion. Call it exultation, call it confidence, call it pride, or call it ego. It was most unbecoming one of his small stature. "And you are my queen, I presume," addressed the flea to the Aryan goddess standing like stone nearby. "Come, my dear, let us retire to my chamber for a nightcap." He hopped onto her elbow, and the brave lady paled, but nonetheless retired with him. I affirm she was a brave debutante, for what strength of character it must have required for a refined lady to associate with a flea. Some while later, as the sky turned to fire in the west, the flea emerged from his chambers to gaze out across his kingdom from the high balcony of his immodest castle. "There is justice in the world, after all," he shouted in a flea voice that carried not very far. "All of my life I have experienced discrimination in one form or another, and have been frowned on," thought the flea to himself. For as you see, he could not for that matter think it to anyone else now, could he? But on this magnificent day, I have broken a new ground. I have achieved what no one thought one of my low class was capable of. I have gained an audience with the Pope, and am crowned king by the grace of God. In effect, I am the chosen one. As monarch, I can do no wrong. Therefore, I have decided it is time that I level the playing field. I will do away with the classes. I will commingle all the blood in my kingdom until I am every man. And forthwith the Flea called his royal guard to him and instructed them to parade a new citizen before him each hour, and he would command that subject to kneel down obediently while he would bite him on the ear. In this fashion the Flea was never without devotion, did not lack for variety in his diet, and could never be accused of being out of touch with his subjects. Eventually, however, the Flea had accounted for every last citizen within his realm, and as far beyond as his influence could extend. "Are there no more subjects?" he asked. "No, sire. Only the pets of the households, the lambs in the fold, and the oxen of the field, among others." "Then have all of the dumb animals to bow before me," he commanded. "I will assimilate everything." One after the other, the Flea bit all the animals of the kingdom on the ear, and so their blood mingled with that already coursing inside of him, and he was well on his way to becoming one with all things. "It is not accomplished yet, your majesty," apprised the chief of the guard to the king. "Word has come to me that the elephant refuses to comply with your wishes." "Then have the miscreant bound in chains and marched throughout the kingdom and flogged non-stop until he agrees. I must have full compliance if my dream is to be realized. Have him understand that non-compliance is not an option. I will become one with everything if it is the last thing I do." Therefore, by express orders of the king, the elephant was bound in chains, and humiliatingly marched throughout the kingdom, and flogged for days on end until its willpower began to falter, and it burst into tears and agreed to an audience with the king. "Why have you refused to do as I say?" the king asked. "I felt it was an unwise thing to request of me, your majesty." The elephant replied, "Are you suggesting that you are more wise than your king, who has assimilated 99.9999% of all living things?" asked the flabbergasted king. "Not in all matters, your majesty, but in this one instance I am quite convinced of it." "Nonsense," said the king. "Kneel down to me that I might bite you on the ear." "But your majesty, you are asking something of me that you might regret." "Silence! I will have no more defiance from the likes of you. Do as I command, or else I'll instruct a family of mice to take up residence in your trunk." "As you instruct, my king," complied the elephant. And with these words the elephant effused a sigh, and knelt in a most acquiescent manner. But as it did so, its enormous knee bore down onto the Flea King with such force that it burst him. And that is how the stain came to be in the royal red carpet. It happened so long ago that no one remembers other than the elephant. And we all know that an elephant has the longest memory of all. So, let this be a lesson to you, good Christian. Should you ever find yourself up to your eyeballs in cake and influence, and you wish to maintain the status quo, never ever address the elephant in the room. The end. Yours in moderation. You have been listening to The Elephant and the Flea, a bedtime story written by George Louis Avery. If you have enjoyed listening to this tongue-in-cheek tale, then check out the author's other videos and his website at averyhillarts.com, where you will discover a plethora of his unconventional prose. And 2, do consider giving this video a thumbs up, as your acknowledgement alone will be rich payment to a pious writer. Copyright 2025 by George Louis Avery. All rights reserved.